Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I think something is happening.
I defend my family. I think I do a pretty good job of defending my family.
Yeah, my sister, bless her heart, she's as loyal as the day is long.
Like a church bell's cry, angel in name but fire in the eye, raised in shadows where the whispers run deep. She guards the truth that the cowards can't keep. Bloodline strong like the old stone streets. She walks a talk, no retreat, no defeat. La Familia's flame, burning so bright, standing tall in the day or the night. No rats, no fakes, no lies in the game. Angel Gotti, remember the name. Italian as a Sunday feast. Words like knives, sharp and unleashed. Built from bricks where respect is the code. Breaking down lies, she carries the load. History's weighed on a delicate frame, but her voice is a torch in the family name. Honor runs thicker than any red wine. She's the future, the past, the eternal line. La Familia's flame, burning so bright, standing tall in the day or the night. No rats, no fakes, no lies in a game. Angel Gotti, remember the name. Hey, 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 hey. Remember the name. Hey, 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 hey. Remember the name.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Let me just get this done. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi there. Hello, everyone. Hey there,
Hi,
Dr.
Angel.
Jim.
Hi, Tony.
Tony.
Hello
What's
to
up,
all
Doc?
your beautiful listeners.
What's up, Dr. Jim? What's up, Angel?
Hi. You know, I never get tired of hearing that theme song. I'm thinking, Tony, wouldn't it be great for someone to write a theme song about us? I mean, to have a theme song written for you, that's something really great. You know, I
I've
never
had a
get tired of listening
few.
to this.
I've had a few, and I appreciate all of them. Thank you. So,
That's
Dr.
that's
Jim, Tony, we're going to
Yes,
speak
ma'am.
about drug addiction and heroin addiction, opioid addiction. We're going to talk
Oh.
about it all. And I
Wow.
have to, I told Dr. Jim and Tony that I don't know really anything about this.
Oh, that's so good. It's so good, Angel.
Well,
You
thank
know,
God.
Tony has, we talked a little bit before the show, and Tony has some really first-hand experience with the topic here for sure. And I also do too. I don't have anybody in my family that was addicted or myself, but over the years, I did work with people with addictions. That's basically what I did with all kinds of addictions, alcohol, opiate, cocaine, whatever it might be. That's basically what I did. And so I'm pretty well versed with it. I've ran relapse prevention groups for many years. I've worked in hospitals where people were doing an inpatient program for whatever addiction they had. So I've taken people to AA meetings and NA meetings and all that kind of stuff, and I'm very aware of what's going on. I haven't done it in a few years, but because I'm teaching now. But there's a lot to talk about tonight, Tony. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different sides to it. You know, you have the medical side of it, you have the family side of it, dealing with it. You have the outside world dealing with it. You have what they, the rehabs. You have all different ways to deal with it. and it's almost like it goes from like 1 to 10, we'll say. And a lot of the times, not everybody's on agreement with the same plan for each person.
Tony, you are so right. You are so right. Because, the big question is, Tony and Angel, is this. Here's the big question. Is addiction a choice or is it a disease? And that's what separates a lot of treatment programs from one another, and it separates a lot of people involved in it. Some will say, well, no, it's a choice. We're all people. We're all humans. We have free choice. We have free will. And then other people might say, well, hey, listen, yeah, we do. But if you get it, let's say, for example, you make some bad choices and you end up getting addicted, you no longer have free will because the addiction kind of takes over your whole life.
Absolutely. And it doesn't only take over your life, it takes over you. If you're an adult, it'll take off your wife, it'll take off your children. If you're a younger adult and you're like with your mom and dad, it'll take over your other brothers and sisters, it'll take over your mother and father. It basically takes over your whole life. One person can control a whole family by their actions, and you got to try and work with it. They are your children, or they are your husband or your wife. What a lot of people aren't understanding is everyday people who are taking these oxycodones or Percocets or something, they're addicted as well after 6-7 years. All right. It's just that you're not going to think it's an addiction because it's being prescribed to you, but it's still an addiction. It's not good for you.
Well, I'm doing my little bit of research before I come on, right? And I found a statistic that's very eye-opening. And it says that 80% of people who are now using heroin started by misusing prescription oxycodone or prescription opiates. So that's how they started, right? They got into an accident, like Tony's saying, and they took the prescribed dose, found that wasn't really doing it, so they took a little bit more, found that was a little better, but after a while, that wasn't really doing it, so they took a little bit more, and one thing led to another.
Okay, so I'm already looking into something in the chat here, and I'm going to disagree right off the jump with you. Well-known local said, you don't wake up with a heroin addiction, but you can wake up and have cancer. No, you don't understand. If you're a young adult, a late teenager, okay, and you're playing a sport and somebody gives you medication, they're enabling you to become an addict, okay? And then when you're no longer able to play that sport, we'll say, okay, and you have an addiction, the colleges aren't looking to help you. Nobody's looking to help you, but your parents, okay? So you need maybe to be a little bit educated on the situation. And maybe if you listen, you'll see what we're talking about here tonight.
Yeah, it's like I said, Tony and Angel, the choice, is it a choice or is it a disease? It may start out as a choice, but once a person becomes full-blown addiction, it takes over your whole life, right? And it's not that easy to just say, okay, I'm just going to stop today and quit. It's too complex of a situation. I was working at a clinic for 8 years. It was called Family Intervention Center in Waterbury, Connecticut. And the reason why it was called that is because if you have one person, like Tony just said, in the family who's sick, right? Say a person who's got an addiction to heroin or cocaine or whatever it is. If that person is sick, the whole family, like Tony said, is affected. I mean, there's serious stress and pressures put on the rest of the family, feelings of guilt, feeling of what did I do wrong? How could I have approached this better? What's wrong with my son? What's wrong with my daughter? Why is this happening? And it's a very, very strenuous and very anxiety-provoking type of situation.
Well, what happens is once it hits the home, okay, let's say you have 2 kids, 3 kids, all your attention goes to one child, okay, the one who is addicted. So you got to make sure you get them to the right doctors, and you got to see if you can get them in a rehab. The big problem today is, Doc, and I know, it's not easy to get anybody into a rehab.
No.
You have to go down and basically go through an interview no matter what you're doing. And the other thing that's coming out now, because they have not separated it, is alcoholics compared to drug addicts, people addicted to drugs. All right. For some reason, and you would know better than me, alcoholism can poison you faster, they believe. So they'll take the alcoholic over the drug addict. If there's one bed left and it's down to an alcoholic or a drug addict, they're taking the alcoholic.
Well, that's because alcohol is the most severe withdrawal. You could die from alcohol withdrawal. You know, the delirium tremens and all that kind of stuff. So it's the most deadly withdrawal is alcohol for sure. But I also wanted to say that I was a little bit surprised that over 1 million people right now are actively addicted to heroin in the United States. And they say that number has gone down. So that's a lot of people. We're not talking about other drugs. We're just saying people using heroin, right? And there's different ways that they use it, right, Tony?
Well, you got in 2024, you had 103,529 overdose deaths in America.
Right.
All right. From April 124 to April 125, it went down to 76,516. So it went down almost 30,000, you know? No, a little bit over 25,000.
Yeah.
So either they're classifying it differently, because if you listen to a lot of people, employees from the hospitals, when they're making their speeches, they've seen the same amount and they're just classifying it differently now. Same thing they did with the pandemic disease that time. You know, everybody all of a sudden died from that when it wasn't. You know, there was other reasons behind it too. But it went down, and that could be because they're just saying it went down to make it look that way.
Right.
But a lot of like I said, a lot of the older people are dying as well on prescription drugs, and they don't count that no longer.
Well, you were right with what you said, Tony. For example, I've had many people come to me and say, Jim, I was in a really bad car accident. You know, it took me 6 months to recover. During that time, my physician was writing me prescriptions for oxycodone and things of that nature. Now my body is, you know, pretty much healed, but I can't get off these damn pills. And there's really no help. You know, it's like they can't get off of them. And it's like the one thing they don't want to do is become sick or go through withdrawal symptoms. And people who are in the throngs of an addiction, that's one of their main fears as well. If I stop using, I'm going to have these horrible withdrawal symptoms. But if you go to a rehab place and you say, listen, I want to turn myself in for rehab, I'm using heroin, they're going to ask you this: are you currently using? And you say, yes. When's the last time you used? I used this morning. Okay, you know, we could take you. However, if you want to be a good boy and say, you know, I'm trying to kick this myself, so I haven't used in the past couple of days and I'm really feeling poorly, I want to come into your rehab program. Please help me. Listen, we can't help you. You have to come in and we're going to test you, and you have to test positive. They won't take you in most times unless you're currently using, like you used today.
So what happens now is you go into, we'll say, you go into the office of where the rehab starts from, all right? First thing they got to do is put you in a detox center. So you detox, okay? If you're not high, okay, if you don't have it in your system, they're not going to take you.
That's what I mean. Right?
But then you have a 48-hour wait period because they want you to be, you know, kind of clean going into the detox. Depending on which facility you go, they have different rules. But like I see here, Coven Warlock said, I was on strong, heavy painkillers. Not once did I become addicted. You get addicted because you want to and have no willpower. That's not true, bro. That's not true at all. And then well-known uncle's going to say, exactly. I don't think you really have an idea what you're talking about. So maybe if you listen, you'll find out. We had a problem. Well, because you know what it is? You're looking at people and you get a little pissed off and you're like, all right, fuck it. And then you got jokes.
Why don't you not look at people and just you and Dr. Jim?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to look at these fools no more. Go ahead, Dr. Jim. No, yeah, you got to go into a detox, all right? And then you stay in a detox for as long as it takes you to come off the shakes and the withdrawals and everything, because the body just isn't used to it no longer. You know, the body's not used to you not on drugs. So
well, it's so bad, yeah. It's so bad, Tony and Angel, that if you turn yourself into a rehab facility and they say, all right, come on in, they can't work with you. They absolutely cannot work with you until they detox you, because you're not, you know, you're high. You're still using, you're still high. So they have to detox you. And the easiest way to do that is to give you things like Ativan and Valium or some kind of benzodiazepine, which are anti-anxiety medications to take the edge off you, sort of detoxing, right? It helps you take that edge off where you're not totally losing your mind, right? So that's the first thing, like Tony said, that has to happen. You have to get detoxed, because you're not in a learning mode when you're high, you know.
No, not at all. And then until you get completely detoxed and you're ready to enter the rehab and participate in everything you got to do there, you got to go to group and everything like that. When you get there, you stay in the detox unit. But then you only have 28 to 30 days once you get into the rehab.
Right.
If anybody thinks 28 to 30 days is going to cure you, you're out of your mind.
Well,
But
you're 100% right on that one too, Tony.
you know, so now when you come out of there, you're supposed to stay with a program. You're supposed to meet people in your, find groups in your neighborhood, find meetings in your neighborhood, and go through it like that. You got more people in these meetings outside of the rehabs that are trying to re-get you high. That's one problem. The other problem is nobody else is clean in the neighborhood most of the time. They're doing something, whether it be drinking or doing drugs. So you're basically cocooned to your home if you're really going to do it and stay within the program. You know what I mean? You really have to change everything. All your friends got to disappear out of your life. A lot of adults, you got to change everything in your house as the mother and father or as the husband, the wife, whatever it is. You can't have booze in the house. You can't have anything laying around the house. I mean, I seen it at one point where you have to put your own prescription medication in a safe in the house because you can't have anything laying out there.
Well, that's why we talk in the rehab. Once we get going in the rehab, we talk to them about people, places, and things. Right? You can't be going to places where this stuff is available, or the bars that you bought it in, or the street corner you bought it at. You can't go back there. Places, people rather. You can't be hanging around with other people who are using things. Well, you can't keep your works around just in case somebody offers you something, right? So you have to change people, places, and things. And that's a very hard thing to do, because if you don't do that, Tony's right, eventually you're going to go back to the same habit again. Because most people in rehab over the course of the year or two will relapse maybe 2 to 3 times. And that's not a sign of, oh, it's over, I'm going back to drugs. It just happens. It just happens because that's their go-to at time of serious stress. Oh, Jim, this happened, that happened. I had to use. I didn't have any coping skills. So that's what you learn in rehab. You learn people, places, and things, and you learn new coping skills, new ways to deal with the stress that's going to happen in your life.
Right. And not only does the addict or the alcoholic have to deal with it, the whole family has to learn to deal with it. Your whole life has to change if you're committed to doing this. And they have to help.
They have to help. I mean, if you have an alcoholic that's in your family or living with you, I mean, you have to say, you know what? I like a beer now and then. I like a glass of whiskey once in a while. You got to get rid of all that stuff. You got to help them. If you want to help them, you got to help them. Right? You can't have it around. You can't have temptation there. Like it's like, yeah, my son's a heroin addict. He's in rehab now, but I like to smoke a little pot when he's there. You can't do it. You can't. You have to help him. You have to be clean yourself, clean and sober yourself.
Right. And the other thing is, let's say like I'm with my wife and we're going to go over Angel's house. All right. Then all of a sudden it becomes, well, do you have beer or do you have wine or don't offer drinks tonight? I mean, you got to start asking other people to change what's going on too around their house. If you're committed to this, or do you just completely get rid of all your friends and start a new group of friends with people that are just clean?
That would be a good idea.
Well, it's just the point of it is it becomes so different on every level. You basically got to start your life all over again.
Well, let's face it, Tony and Angel, if you're not using anymore and all your friends were, using drugs, you have nothing in common anymore. There's no reason to hang around. Right?
No, but not only that, like, let's say, everybody will have a glass of wine or something when they get to somebody's house. That doesn't even work no longer. If you're
going a New Year's Eve toast. Oh, Jim, could I have a New Year's Eve toast? No.
Exactly. So you got to change everything. Go ahead, Angel.
If you're saying that you can't go to somebody's house who might have drinks there, then why would you go?
That's exactly. People, places, and things.
Right. Why would you ask those people to not serve drinks to their friends?
No. You're not asking them not to. You, as the alcoholic, will say, should maybe not go to that house because
that's what I just said.
It
then
maybe trigger you. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like the alcoholic saying to me, which happens many times, Jim, I think I got a good handle on my drinking now, so I just want to go to the bar to see my friends. I'm not going to drink. I'm just going to order a soda. That's okay, right? No, because eventually, if you go to the bar enough times, you're gonna end up drinking. It's just that's what happens. That's why people go to bars, right? It's the same thing with a person using heroin. You hang around with the buddies that use, and you might not use for a month or a week or 2 weeks or 2 months, but eventually you hang out with these people, you're going to use. That's just a fact of life. It's going to happen. So you've got to change your whole life. You've got to change your attitude. You've got to change your diet. You've got to change who you talk to, what you think about. I mean, you have to become a new person.
You got to change everything. You know, it's not fair to ask other people to change their lives around that aren't in your family. So sometimes you have to re-navigate yourself, and you just don't go to these places. They could.
And there's going to be temptation, right, Tony? All over the place, there's going to be temptation, right? And to use, or when you don't expect that something might pop up, right? Even at work. Oh, my wife just had a baby. I brought her in a bottle of champagne, and let's all have a toast. You can't do it. Okay, hey, listen, congratulations, but I want to maintain my sobriety, whatever it might be. So yeah, but let's talk a little bit too about this fentanyl, because that's what it's really killing a lot of people. They're mixing that, and that's like 50 times more potent than the heroin itself. They're mixing that in with the heroin, and so you really never know what you're getting. You never know what you're getting. So your next shot of heroin could be your last, because you really don't know what you're getting. So what you're doing now is you can go to the drugstore and buy fentanyl strips. Where, so for example, you're using heroin, you say, listen, I just bought a bag of heroin, but I want to test to see if there's any fentanyl in there. You can actually buy the strips I think in the pharmacies, and to check your heroin to see make sure it's not going to kill you, right? With the fentanyl. But now also, Tony, I'm sure you're aware of this. Maybe Angel's not. I don't know, but they have something called Narcan. You guys,
I've heard of Narcan.
Right, so Narcan is saved a lot. Yeah,
if you have a person in your home or around you, or a relative or a friend, it's a good idea to carry that with you, or keep it in your house as well. If they do make what we call a slip and go out and use, and they overdose, it's just a nasal spray. You can bring them back.
Right.
So it's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Every ambulance has it when they come, and now they're giving it to you, even for people who get painkillers in pharmacies. A lot of them give it to you, and Narcan is available everywhere for free right now.
Yeah. So, if you have someone who's got a problem with opiates, good idea to keep some at home, keep some in your pocketbook or in the car. Whatever it might be, could save their lives. I've had the worst cases you can think of, people on the streets doing bad things. The parents have come to me, Jim, I'm not going to give up on my son. All my friends and family are telling me he needs tough love. He's taking advantage of you. You're giving him money. He's spending on drugs. And some of the people said, like you said, Tony, I'll never give up on my son. I have seen such turnaround stories that I could tell you, a bunch of turnaround stories that you wouldn't believe, for people who were in jail for a year because of their heroin use crimes and so on, kicked the habit, went through therapy, and have bought homes, got great jobs, got married, and the whole thing, and now are looking back and say, I can't believe that was me.
Really?
Well, a lot of times, like you're saying, people go to jail and it actually saves their life. All right?
Yeah.
Because it's just not readily available there. There is drugs available there, but if you go there, you're not going to get the same drugs you're looking for. All right. They're completely different drugs that are available. But a lot of people have gone to jail and their lives have been saved because they were incarcerated.
I totally agree. And, sometimes you think of people using heroin, you think they're going to be sticking a needle in their arm, right? Or somewhere else. Not necessarily the case. They also have this thing called black tar heroin.
Yes.
That they put it on aluminum foil, and they heat it up, and then they sort of inhale it. And that's the way a lot of people start. They start by smoking it, inhaling it, and then they go into the intravenous using. It's not usually you don't start with intravenous, but it's step by step.
Well, what it is you got regular heroin out there. You got this black tar heroin out there. You got a lot of people breaking up the opioids, the oxycodone, and sniffing the pill itself. I mean, they know ways to do drugs today that you wouldn't even imagine. I had walked into somebody's house one time and seen little black specks on the floor. I'm like, what the hell is this? And another kid told me that's black tar heroin. I'm like, black tar heroin? You know, so a lot of people aren't even educated on some of the shit that's out there right now.
Oh, the black tar heroin is something else. A lot of people are using that. They also actually can inject the black tar heroin, but they have to boil it up and some other things. They can smoke heroin through a glass pipe.
Right.
I once had a guy in relapse prevention. I called him Rambo. And it was a winter time, and we had just finished a relapse prevention group meeting. So I always would say, okay, guys, go in peace and don't use drugs or liquor. And so he said, Jim, can I talk to you for a minute after the meeting? I said, sure. So we talked a little bit. And he said, I'm really doing good. And, you know, I said, I'm really feeling great about my life now and so on and so forth. And, you know, I'm not using it. I said, great. He's putting on his winter coat. And as he's putting on his winter coat, out comes the glass pipe, you know, with all resin in it. I said, what is this? Oh, Jim, just in case. Like, oh boy, right? So sometimes some of the users, not all, but some of the users will tell the therapist or they'll tell the family what they think you might want to hear, but they're not really, they're still using it in some way. And this is not uncommon.
Just in case what?
In case somebody offers him something.
Oh, in case somebody. See, like when I quit smoking, I kept a pack of cigarettes in my pocketbook just in case. So that's why I'm asking you. But what happened is I got used to the vape and I went, you know, one day I was really aggravated and I went to light up a cigarette and that was it. I couldn't even smoke it. I threw it out. So that's what I thought you meant by just in case.
No, in other words, Jim, just in case. I'm not using Jim, but just in case. In other words, if someone offered him something, you know, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had a lot of cases like that. I had another guy telling me in the relapse prevention group, Jim, I'm in the no matter what club. And I said, okay, Joe, please tell the group what you mean by that. Jim, I'm not using drugs no matter what. And Jim, I was a bad heroin addict for years. I said, Chris, great to hear, you know. And so it was about 3:00 in the afternoon, and guys, don't use drugs or liquor. I'd say at 3:15, I get a call from the police department. Jim, are you seeing so-and-so? Yeah. Well, why are you calling me? Well, he wanted me to call you specifically because, you know, you're at the hospital and so on. He bought heroin from one of the undercover officers. So he must have left the meeting right after he told me, Jim, I'm in the no matter what club, and went directly downtown to buy some drugs, right? So it's a process, though. I mean, some people go to rehab 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they get it. It's true.
Well, what happens is, you know, anything can set them off. All right. Now, you also got to be careful. A lot of these people become professional con artists where they can talk you into anything. You know, you got to watch how much money, if you're a parent, you give them to go out, because you got to kind of have knowledge yourself now of what stuff costs out there. But adults, I mean, they find a way to con you. They could be talking to a friend who they know might have a pill or something. Oh, I really hurt my back today. You got something for it. And they give it to them, not knowing that it's going to set off a major, you know, thing in this guy's life or this lady's life. I mean, there's addicts right now that are 70, 80 years old taking these pills every day. All right. Some of them need it for pain. Let's not fool each other. Some are in such horrific pain from things that have gone on in their life and accidents or something that they're going to need it. And you try and monitor it that way. But I was reading an article just now just before I came backstage and talking to you guys. A lot of times when you're on it for a couple of years and you're still doing it, it's basically a way to keep you out of withdrawing. It's not getting you high no more. You know what I'm saying? So you could be on, a lot of times it's just not going to do the high the first time you used it. You know, your body starts getting to tolerate it more. And if you go off it, you're going to get the shakes. You got a possibility of going into convulsions. So a lot of times it's just keeping you from withdrawals after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and you'll hear this too. You know, a lot of people will do what's called, Jim, I'm chasing the dragon. What do you mean? I'm looking for that first time. The first time I ever used, I got a high that was just so great. And I've been trying to replicate that high, and I just can't get that high. So I always end up using a little more and a little more, trying to catch that first time high. And I'm always looking for that high, and that's why I'm using more and more and more. But that's what methadone does, Tony. What you mentioned, it sort of takes up the methadone program is a treatment for people on heroin. It takes up the receptors. It goes into the receptors in the brain that heroin would occupy, right? And so if they use heroin, they don't really get that feeling that they're looking for, right? So the methadone is a synthetic form of heroin that occupies those sites. And unfortunately, with the methadone program, that's like a lifetime deal, right?
Well, as far as that, what about the Suboxone? The Suboxone is kind of the newer way to do it. It's been around for years now, but it's still the same thing. It keeps you. It has everything in it, the Suboxone, that an oxycodone has in it, except for the pain part of it. It
takes away the right, Tony. It takes away the cravings. It's something. It's a sublingual. It goes under your tongue. Anyways. And many of the addicts that I work with over the years want that. I mean, Jim, I don't want to go to methadone. I want the Suboxone, and sometimes it does work for them. It does. And but you can buy Suboxone on the street as well.
Suboxone has become just as much of a want on the streets for addicts as much as the actual heroin or oxycodone right now, because it's a little bit cheaper to get, but now the prices on that has jumped up on the street. I was reading a little while ago, people are waiting for people to get their Suboxone and buying it right off of them. Some people sell that so they have enough money to go out and get a limited amount of pills or heroin or something. So they get that as much as they can get that.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem in this country. I don't know about other countries, but in this country, opiates and just drugs are just big problem. Big problem. There's so many people out there experimenting with, using drugs. And, Nancy Reagan was widely criticized in the 1980s when she said, just say no. In other words, don't ever try them and you'll never have to worry about it, right? And they say, oh, that's too simple. It's so corny. But, it does make sense. If you never try, you'll never get addicted, right? But there's a lot of peer pressure out there. I know when I was in high school, someone said to me, oh, you got to try marijuana. Oh, I don't want to try marijuana. Oh, just take a puff. I took a puff. I said, this is not for me, So, kids are going to try and things of that nature. But, if you can not try, right? It's a simpler way to conduct your life, I think.
Okay. So now another thing that's going on out there, you got people that have real pain. Let's say either you hurt yourself in a car accident or some other kind of injury, something that you need it for. Even people with cancer today. All right, have such pain from certain types of cancer they got that they need it. Doctors are so hesitant to give it to you because the penalties that are coming down on them now, because of some of the doctors that abused the prescriptions and the way they gave it out.
The pain
So, they're coming up with all kinds of stuff now. They're coming up with injections in office, injections in hospital, epidurals, all different kind of epidurals.
Yes.
But some people need it on a regular basis. So there's a couple of people that have been arrested, doctors. There was one in Staten Island that just got arrested about 6 months ago. He actually had a pill press and was making oxycodone in the house, and it was all fake. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, there's more fake pills on the streets today than there is real pills on the street today is my point. So 80% is all fake oxycodones. And you think about it. You're going to the same guy if you're somebody out there buying it. How many pills do you think this guy can literally get legal a month? All right, maybe 120, 240, depends on what the doctor's going to write him. By the time you're buying the 300th pill and he's got 50 other customers, something don't smell right there, man. Wake the fuck up at that point, because these pills are not real. And that's where a lot of these people are dying today. They're taking fake pills.
Well, you know what it is? You know what it is too, Tony and Angel? Some people, for example, say have bipolar disorder, right? Huge mood swings, right? Or they may have some kind of mood disorder. They're depressed, or they may have some anxiety disorder where, they're very, very anxious people. So they go to their psychiatrist, they go to their general practitioner, and they're given some sort of medication. But after a while, it loses its efficacy. It doesn't work anymore. So they decide, well, I'm gonna self-medicate. And I'm gonna do my own thing and see what I can do. So they start using drugs and say, whoa, this is a lot more, I'm getting a lot more relief now for my depression, or I'm getting a lot more relief now for my anxiety than I ever did with the prescription drugs. So that's how they also get into heroin and all that kind of stuff, because they self-medicate. They try to formulate their own treatment plan, and then they get into something and they get over their heads and they become addicted. And so I worked with a population that's called dually diagnosed people. In other words, they have a mental health issue, and on top of that, they have an addiction. And that's a very hard population to sort of work with, because there's a lot of issues going on there. So you have to address the mental health issues. You've got to address the addiction issues. So I would have people coming in to see me for regular therapy on a Monday, and then coming back on Tuesday night for their relapse prevention stuff with the addiction. So you'd be seeing these people 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. And that's the way it goes.
Well, it gets to the point where the other problem is you have to wait a certain period of time if you fall down again and you think you need more rehab. You can't go into a rehab. Now they've extended it to 120 days. It was 90 days before you get in, then it was 120. I'm not sure what it is right now because I haven't needed it for anybody in a while. But there's also a wait time in between. You can only go to a facility. Let's say you go to a facility, St. James, or right upstate. They're not going to take you back before 6 months are up. So you got to do it. But there's these behavioral places now. All right. They don't call them rehabs or stuff like that. They call it adult behavioral places. So you go up there, you actually work on the property. Like there's a large Catholic place that has, I think, 500 acres. You go on the property. They have a cemetery that belongs to them. You go dig the graves. You work to stay there, and it's a clean environment though. And you get tested and all that. It actually acts as a rehab, but it's not a rehab. And
the behavioral clinics, I'm familiar with that. And Tony and Angel, they use something called contingency management. I'll tell you what that is. But it seems to work. Every time the people in the program give a negative urine sample, they give money.
Yeah.
So that's the reinforcement. I'm going to give my urine sample. It's going to be negative, and I'm going to get, I don't know, $10 or something like that. And it seems to work.
Well, what's going on up there is we were involved with it with our son, okay? And he went up there and he was doing great. Sometimes they'll give you a pass for a day, 2 days, 3 days to come home, or to your place or something, and they'll test you immediately when you get there. It's the most difficult 2 or 3 days because God forbid they have a sip of alcohol over a holiday, or they get their hands on one pill and they test positive anyway, you're out the door. There's a zero tolerance for these places.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So
it's the same thing with the methadone programs. I did work in a methadone program briefly, where we would screen the people there for alcohol or other drugs, and then we'd find out that 3 people in the group today failed the test because 2 of them are drunk and 1 of them is taking cocaine. So it's like same thing. So they would detox them from the methadone pretty quickly, and they'd have to leave.
Well, they have the methadone clinics now, and I know a couple of guys that are on it, and they basically told me straight up, one's in the chat right now, without that methadone clinic, he can't stay clean. Okay.
No, it's a methadone program works. There's no doubt about it. And different places now, if you're going to say White Plains, your methadone is going to be one color. If you're going to Bronxville or something like that, it's going to be another color. So they can identify where the methadone is coming from, should somebody try to sell it or whatever it might be. But the methadone program does work. I'll say that it does work.
All right, the methadone works. The Suboxone works if you're doing it right and you're dedicated to it. These things work, but at what point do you try and wean them off of that? A lot of people say methadone's a lifelong commitment.
It is. I was totally surprised when I walked into the methadone clinic. They wanted me to go and do some counseling, blah, blah, blah. And when I questioned the people in the group, 10 years, Jim, 15 years. Oh, I'm on my 20th year. I said, what? I thought people went in there, for 4 or 5 months and sort of got weaned off, and then detox, and then they're better, and they go out and they maintain their sobriety through group therapies and things like that. No, this is a lifetime thing. And there is a problem with the bone density. If you take methadone for chronically for many years, you got some problems with your bones sometimes.
Right. There's a lot of effects of what you get afterwards too that might not be good for you. Right. But like they said, somebody right here, methadone is something you need to be with and stay on that program for pretty much the rest of your life.
That person is correct.
You know, and I've read about it, and yes, you do. Then you hear other people that need it for their drug addiction that'll go out there and say, well, I was prescribed methadone for back pain. That's bullshit. You're only prescribed methadone. Yeah, I heard that in a couple other places that I was watching shows. That's such a lie. It's ridiculous.
I never heard of that.
I never heard of it either before somebody said it on YouTube. All right. But besides that, forget about that person. Methadone is strictly for drug addiction or alcohol addiction. It has nothing to do with pain. So anybody who tries to tell you about pain and methadone is full of shit. All right. The other one is, what's your experience with the Suboxone?
Well, Suboxone seems to work too. I mean, people who are in addictions like that treatment, they've told me, you know, Jim, I'm doing well on Suboxone. They seem to like it and say it works. And I also know that sometimes if they didn't have it, say, Jim, I started out with Suboxone, buying it on the street, and I saw that it was working for me. And you can get that through your family physician.
All right, so Chris is telling me I'm wrong about the methadone for pain. Chris, I'm not aware of it. You want to tell me? I'm more than happy to be educated on it.
Well, give me 1 second. Hold that thought. We're going to drop the link. You don't mind, Dr. Jim, if people come up and ask you any questions or they want to, share what they went through. Okay. So, a Wrench 99 would like to know your thoughts on harm reduction.
Harm reduction regarding what?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I would like to know, Dr. Julian's thoughts on.
It's probably something that we don't. Harm reduction maybe is something it's called in New York and Connecticut. We don't call it that. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, he's saying methadone is used for pain. I wasn't aware of it. It's good to know, but I haven't been around it in so long. I have no idea. You know, I was only with it with my son, so I don't know about methadone for pain.
I'm not saying it couldn't be used for pain. I'm just saying that in my experience, and I only worked in the methadone clinic for a short while. It was mostly people with drug addictions, but it could be, I guess.
I guess I believe him if he's saying that. I was just never aware of it.
Why methadone is a painkiller?
Well, I get two people here saying, but I have two people in chat saying it's used for pain.
In other words, if you took heroin, you're.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. What happened? I'm sorry. What did you say?
I just never experienced that way. I'm sure. Yeah, it's a synthetic form of heroin, and it operates.
I'm sorry.
Right, so here's what he said. He said the pills, yeah, they do use the pills for pain because it's long lasting. The liquid is for withdrawal. Okay. See, now we weren't involved. I was involved only with the Suboxone with my son.
Suboxone, okay. So Suboxone seems to work. I mean,
it worked as long as he would stay on it, and then eventually, look, they all. If they want to go back out.
Recovery is part of recovery is making a slip or two, unfortunately, but everybody goes through it, and you just have to dust yourself off and get back up and start over again. It's people. I've known people, like I said, gone through several rehab before they got it. It's like I was also doing the domestic violence. If you got arrested for domestic violence in Waterbury, Connecticut, there was my name and two other people there. The court would say, go see one of these guys and go to their program for domestic violence. And I would see sometimes the same people coming back. This guy was here in January, and then he's coming back in March, and then you again, right? Sometimes they don't get it, or they have to go to jail first, and then they go through the domestic violence program 3 or 4 times, and they finally get it. Same thing with drugs and rehab. May go through rehab several times. So Tony is 100% right. You can't really give up on them. If you give up on them, they'll give up on themselves. So if you don't give up on them, there's always a chance. Now, is there a huge, population that, if you had 100 people addicted to heroin, are 80% of them going to get better? Probably not. But there's enough there, 10 to 20% that could do it, change their lives, and really, really make some great gains and do great things and maintain their sobriety for the rest of their lives. They need a little help, but so what? Everybody does.
Yeah, like I said, we had success with the Suboxone for a while. And a holiday had came around and he went out with the kids, and the next thing you know, he had a couple of drinks, and that triggered it off.
Well, you said that
So,
right. Tom. Holidays are a big trigger for people who have had addictions or have an addiction. Holidays are always a big trigger. So a lot of activity going around the holidays, overdoses and so on and so forth. A lot of activity.
now, also, a lot of times the parents or the husband or the wife will feel bad on a holiday and say, let me let you come home if the program works like that, or you've been in for 26 days. Forget about the next 4 days. We'll get you out early, and that can fuck up the whole program.
Yeah.
That can set you off the whole program if you do it the wrong way. Look, I felt bad around Christmas. It was supposed to be a 3-month program. I think it was in there for 2 months and 3 weeks at the time. And I said, it was long enough. And we brought him home. That was a way before he passed away. So, you could be your worst enemy trying to help the addict or the alcoholic to it sometimes. And a lot of people enable it too. I'm sure you've seen that over the years.
Usually now nothing's 100%, but usually no addict can do it themselves. They have to have some sort of an enabler, giving them money and helping them. And I've had parents come in and tell me, Jim, I buy the drugs for my kids. What? Yeah, I go down the street and I buy the heroin. Well, my son's on probation. I don't want him getting in any more trouble. He'll go to prison. So I buy it for him. What? So it's hard to believe, but many addicts have what's called enablers. They couldn't live their lifestyle without that person.
No, you feel bad after a while, and you're like, all right, let me give him money to go out, or have money to go out, or maybe a toasted New Year's Eve, and that one toast might fucking trigger it all off, and you're done. You're purely done.
You're right, and Tony. It's almost like parents, these permissive type of parents say, well, I'm going to have my daughter. I know she's going to use marijuana anyway, so I'm going to have her smoke marijuana at home. And that's okay. She can come over with her friends and smoke marijuana because I know they're going to do it anyway. Well, first of all, that's a defeatist attitude. And second of all, you think that now when the parents aren't home, the teenagers aren't going to raise that bar a little bit, right? And maybe when they're not at home, they're going to raise that bar a little bit and smoke outside of the home and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they get started sometimes, Then they go to something else. They try a little cocaine. They try to snort a little bit of heroin, and it's on.
No, and there goes the problem. I mean, it's a commitment that you have to make for the rest of your life to try and be on that program with either your husband, your wife, your child, whoever it is. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you have to.
You got to have social support. You got to have a family to support you. That's the number one thing. And beside the family, you got to have some other kind of social support, like going to any kind of a church, any kind of a spirituality, whether it's meditation, whether it's the church on the corner, whether it's a Catholic church, whether it's whatever. That seems to really help.
Okay, so in your experience, that's what has been successful for a lot of your people, patients.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, Angel, some of the people who have addictions have never had a positive figure in their life. Mom was an alcoholic. Dad was a drug addict. So and the rest of the family is, all smoking it up, right? So they really don't know. They have no one to turn to. They don't know what it's all about. They can't visualize a life without, drinking beer and smoking pot and doing a little cocaine. They can't visualize that. So it's a tough situation sometimes. You've got to convince them. But listen, not everybody lives like that. Not everybody is sitting at home at night and, smoking a bone and then snorting some cocaine. Not everybody's doing that. But sometimes it's hard to get them to listen to that.
Well, yeah, when I heard this guy saying he was smoking weed with his daughter, I was like, why would you do that? He goes, well, at least I know it's coming from the right person, and she's not out there getting it from somebody else. And my answer to him was, how do you know it's coming from the right person? A dealer is a dealer. This was before you could go buy it in these distributors that are legal now, whatever you call them. And I just thought it was bizarre that you would actually bring weed home to smoke it with your daughter or coke. A lot of people go home and do coke with their family members too, which is bizarre.
I mean, it blows my mind as well. I can't imagine that. But there's, and I've had people say to me, Jim, now, you smoke a little pot. What do you do? What do you like to drink? You drink vodka? You drink whiskey? I said, listen, it's not my thing. I'm not a drinker, and I don't use drugs. I said, now, if an adult wants to go home and smoke a little pot, and they live by themselves, and they don't have any children around. Knock yourself out. Your adult wants to go home and have a glass of wine before bed. Beautiful. I just don't do that. But some people can't imagine, or they think I'm a phony. Jim, I don't believe what you're saying. Everybody drinks beer. Oh, listen, I'd rather drink coffee, please. So they can't imagine it. And you've got to sort of take these people and try to show them just a different way to listen. Your life doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to be getting arrested every month for, for possession of this or intent to sell or whatever it is. You don't have to live like that. It takes
Jim, Dr. Jim, answer this question. Why is alcohol more deadly withdrawal? Is it something in it?
Alcohol, if you're going through an alcohol withdrawal, you and it's severe, you'll get something called delirium tremens. That's where you're shaking uncontrollably, you're having hallucinations, your heart beats irregularly. So you have to be detoxed by a professional who's going to give you the right kind of medicines, because you could die, and many people have died from trying to detox themselves, and they're severe alcoholics. Now, if you were a heroin addict, could you detox yourself? Some have. You probably won't die, but you're going to be very, very uncomfortable for 3 or 4 days. No, and most people don't want to go through that, so they go through the regular detox. But alcohol is the most deadliest detox is alcohol. Yeah.
And what about opioids?
Same thing with opioids. Now, you could probably do it yourself if you're very strong-willed and you got support in your family. You kind of lock yourself up in your bedroom and they look in on you. But I wouldn't recommend it. But you probably wouldn't die. You'd just be very, very, very uncomfortable.
Well, let me tell you something.
Watch.
And alcohol, you can die.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched the withdrawal. I've watched the withdrawals from opioids and heroin. Wow, they're bad, man. No. You see these people suffer.
Torture.
They go through shakes. I've seen them go through convulsions. You know what they try to get. It's horrible to watch.
That's horrible. What most addicts. That's what they fear, and I don't blame them. I won't want to be sick like that. I don't blame them at all. So they're always, afraid of being sick, right? Jim, I need money. I don't have enough money. If I don't use today, I'm going to be very sick, and I don't know what to do. And they're in a panic mode, and so they go out and they steal a car, or they rob a store or something like that, because they're not in the right. Like Tony said, they're not in the right mind. They're not making logical, rational decisions. Remember, the emotional mind is much stronger than the rational mind. Right. So when you're in the throngs of an addiction, you don't have a rational mind. It's all emotion. Very strong.
What are the what's the effects of long-term like say long-term heroin use or opioid abuse, and then you quit and you've been clean maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years. What are the effects from the past abuse?
Well, first of all, many intravenous drug users have hepatitis. Now, only about 10 years ago, that was a big problem. You could get treatment for that, but it was a long process. Now, from what I hear, they have certain kind of medications that can get rid of the hepatitis, which is great if it's true. I'm not aware of it, but this is what I've read. But hepatitis was the big thing because of sharing needles and all that kind of stuff. That was a huge thing. Hepatitis, right? You only have one liver, and so on and so forth. You can live with part of your liver functioning and the other part, kind of being sick. But if you've ever seen anybody go through hepatitis really bad, the sclera, or the whites of their eyes, turn yellow, and their skin turns yellow. It's an awful way to die, because you blow your liver out from the hepatitis. But there's hope now, because they have medications now that can take care of the hepatitis. But that's one of the bad things about intravenous drug use. Your veins collapse. People are shooting in their feet. They're shooting in their neck because they collapse all the veins, and they're shooting in their legs because they've collapsed all the veins in their arms and things like that. So the circulatory system, you lose memory. Your memory's not so good. Your memory is
it's horrible. Your speech.
Yeah.
Your speech is like delayed in places, lax,
Absolutely.
very, very bad.
For everything you take in your body, even if it's an aspirin, there's a reaction, right? So you're taking drugs, there's a reaction. You're taking an aspirin, there's a reaction. You're taking whatever, there's a reaction for every action.
A lot of times you see people and you look at people and say, "Wow, this guy's got to be messed up on something." You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, he's been clean for 10, 15 years, we'll say. It's just the after effects of what the drugs or the alcohol did to him.
And don't forget, Tony, you're right. Don't forget all the falling down and the broken bones and the getting beat up and all that kind of stuff. Staying out in the cold, staying out in the sun. I mean, it takes a toll on your body and your mind and your
appearance. You look, a lot of people you could see they rotted their teeth out over the years from
all that stuff.
Doing this shit. They have
you can see somebody right away. Hey, well, this guy's telling me he's 25 years old. It looks like he's 60. It's like, what?
You see some of these people out on the street and they tell you, like, I'm only 40, 42 years old. You look at them, they look like they're 65, 70. You're like, what?
It's hard living, man. These people live, they party hard and they play hard and they die hard.
All right. Somebody want to know, what do you think about Kratom? Have you had any experiences with it?
Kratom?
It's, you can buy it over the counter. It subdues pain from what I'm told. I've never tried it. It's illegal. I don't even know what you would call it really, but it's illegal to buy, and it's supposed to help the pain.
So if you go into a pharmacy, there's always a section there, analgesics. Analgesics are pain relievers, so that's where all your aspirin is, all your creams for relief of whatever pains you might have, right? Creams for that. All your analgesics. If you look, you'll see that there's an analgesic aisle, pain reliever. So that cream, I know there are creams out there that people rub in their skin and it's supposed to relieve arthritis and things of that nature, but that's all I'm aware of.
I've seen a lot of like cigarette stores and stuff like that are selling it. You're not going to find it in a Walgreens or a CVS or anything.
Oh, you're talking about the smoke shops, Tony? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, smoke shops and stuff like that sell this Kratom.
Yeah, they got more exotic stuff there. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It comes in pill form and it comes in like a tea form if you want to make tea.
Yeah, that's not regulated. You're just taking a chance with that stuff. None of that stuff is like regulated or inspected by the FDA or anything like that. Taking a chance on that kind of stuff. It's like that stuff, the fake pot they used to sell. I can't remember what it was called. They were selling there was people were getting screwed up.
Yeah, they had the synthetic weed out for a while.
Yeah.
They even had synthetic cocaine out for a while.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, you take your chances.
Listen, if it's not done under professionals or if you don't know how to do it in your own home, you got a bigger chance of failing. All right, we'll be realistic.
Some of these young kids will just take anything they think is going to make them high. They don't know what it is or what they're buying or what they're getting, but their friends tell them, oh, smoke this, you'll get high. So that's what they do and take a chance, I guess, You take a lot of risks when you're younger, right? When you're older, you say, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take a risk. But when you're 15 or 16 or 17, you take a lot of risks, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times, even the person that's clean, it's the occasional drinker or occasional weed smoker. They have to make a choice sometimes who to stay away from in life. You might say, I might have smoked 1 joint last week, 2 joints last week. When I'm around this person, I'll smoke maybe 15, 20 in a week. You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to change your life as a person who's a social, party or something like that. Right. Which, believe it or not, there are a ton of them in this world. But, it's both sides. I mean, but you really have to change your whole life around. And so does the families.
I mean, yeah, it's just an epidemic. Like, for example, now the way I start my days, I get up, right? I'm up at 5 o'clock, when first thing I do, I get in my car and I drive to Waterbury, Connecticut. I go work out, right? So I go work out. I'm working out, right? I'm like the oldest guy in the gym. I'm working out, and these young guys come in. It's like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and when they walk by me, all you can smell is it smells like a skunk just walked in. Heavy pot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I'm like, guys, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, Jim, we like to smoke a little bit. And they're coming in the gym and they're trying to lift weights. I mean, the weights are going to fall on their heads, but they're using it before they come to the gym, and they think like no one knows, but all you can smell when they walk in is like pop.
Smell it. Doctor, what do you think of this? If you take the medication as prescribed, you won't get addicted. Those that get addicted are the ones who take more to get high. I know that for a fact. Silo and tone it down? How you
Tell
talk?
me to tone down nothing because I ain't say shit. Maybe a little bit too many people joking around about it is the problem.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it's a
didn't.
big problem in the United States. That's for
What
sure.
do you?
Yeah,
What
some of
do
these
you
comments
say
are
about
retarded.
that? What do you say about that? That
Well, they misuse them.
listen,
They
I
misuse
was
the
given.
prescription.
I mean, when I had surgery, I stayed by my sister because my sister's the best nurse in the world, and I gave her the bottles. She gave them to me, and I was off of them in 3 days. So that's what I don't understand. How I understand what he's saying. If you follow, what you're supposed to do, how do you get, how do you get addicted to it? Or
Well, if you
is it
follow
that
what you're supposed to do,
just,
chances are
just imagine you still have pain?
you won't get addicted if you follow what you're supposed to do and use them
Right.
as
If you
correctly.
follow it,
Right.
he's
Well, a lot of
saying,
people don't. One pill makes me feel good. Two pills, it's more, and three pills is better. And
mhm,
next thing you know, it's on, right? So, and a lot of times people will call their physician and say, I dropped all my pills in the toilet, and I don't have any more. And for the first time you do that, they'll probably write you another prescription. But then happens again.
mhm, mhm. Methadone withdrawals can be worse than the actual opioid withdrawals.
That I'm not sure about, but they will cut you down. Like let's say you're getting, I don't know, 50 milligrams of methadone. So if you're caught using drugs or liquor, they're going to cut you down, pretty quick. So there might be some discomfort there for sure.
Nah, you walk through a mall today, all you smell is weed from the 4 or 5 kids walk by you, all you smell is weed. It's horrible.
Even in little Italy, I'm walking around. You can smell it everywhere in the street in New York City. All you smell is marijuana. It's like
It
they're
reeks.
making it like they're trying to make it sort of normalize it.
We were down there, and I got to tell you, man, you smell it everywhere. Just walking down the block to go to a restaurant, it hit you right in the head.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
But
And once again, am I am I against an adult who says, Jim, I like go home, and when I go to sleep at night, I have a problem sleeping. I smoke a joint and I go to sleep. Knock yourself out. Any kids around? No. Okay. Okay. Jim, I have a glass of wine with my dinner, and I have beautiful. It's when it becomes excessive, that's the problem.
Yeah. Look, man. Yeah.
Some people can handle it. Some people can't. That's just the way life is.
Listen, sometimes you're going to try and talk serious about it. You got to have the right setting. Yeah, I mean, half of these comments are coming up in here are ridiculous.
I can't
ridiculous.
See it. I don't know.
You're better off not. I just turned it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, so it's
Tony, why is it ridiculous if some people have an opinion?
No, I'm talking about people that are making fun of it.
I don't see anybody making fun of it.
Then maybe you should read it a little closer.
Well, I am reading it. I don't see any. I see people who believe that.
I'm not going to argue with you.
No, I'm saying I see people who don't believe that addiction is a disease. I see other people saying that they don't believe they believe that if you follow your prescription, in other words, it's weak people who gets addicted to drugs.
I'm not talking about those people.
Oh, I don't see anything else.
All right.
Well, you're always going to have your opinions. Some people are going to say, it's, Jim, if it's a disease, how come I never caught it? I never got it. Or if it's a choice, why do people choose to say, hey, I think what I'll do is I'll become an addict when I'm 25 years old. That's what I want to do. That's my choice. No one's making that choice, right? So there's arguments on both sides. There's argument. If you go to AA or you go to NA, you have to turn yourself over to your higher powers and say, I'm powerless over my addiction and I need help. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So some people
try.
They don't want to say they're powerless over their addiction, right?
No,
Dr.
you're right.
Jim, Rainbow Melon said, hello, everyone. I wonder if the doctor thinks certain communities are more targeted or more prone to having higher addictions than other communities.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. I think the poorer communities have a higher rate of addiction. I do. Now, once again, we know that there's a rich kids out there, and even middle class kids as well that have addictions as well. But I think in the poorer communities, they tend to have probably more.
I don't know about that because if you look at in the rehabs, all right, I don't know how familiar you are with the people there. You get a lot of people from the Wall Street area back in the day.
Well, I'm aware
They
of
were
that. Yeah.
blasting coke. You get a lot of these richer kids today buying pills everywhere. It's maybe in the blacker community they don't have the money, and it comes to a different thing. I don't know, but I disagree with that because you got richer
Well, he
kids
didn't
today.
say the blacker community. He said the poorer communities.
All right, the poorer communities, but I disagree with that. You get a lot of the richer kids buying
No, there are.
the majority of the pills today. You know, think about it. The
Well, it
poorer
depends. I mean, if you
communities,
look at, yeah, no, you're right.
the poorer communities can't
all
afford
strata.
$30 to $40 a pill.
It's all strata, it goes through everything.
No,
But
I get it, but think about it. If a pill's $30 to $40, how can you afford it in a poorer community? Somebody's buying them, so it's actually the kids and the parents with more money.
well, you know what I was thinking?
They just hide it better. No,
I
but
was
they
thinking-
hide it better.
I was thinking about crack cocaine. Remember when crack cocaine came out in the 80s? It was mostly all the poorer community because the richer people were spending the $100 an ounce for the crack cocaine, but the poorer people were buying those $5 rocks that you can't stop smoking. Right? Once you smoke one $5 rock, you need another one. You need another one. You need another one. So that's where my mindset went, was there.
No, I agree with that back then, but I'm saying today, the majority of it is richer kids getting the money from their parents or finding a way. There's a lot of wealthy kids out there, not wealthy kids, but kids that come from money that are buying these pills everywhere. I've visited the rehab, okay? They're not always from the poorer communities. There are a lot of middle class to upper, class people in there.
Yeah.
That they have the money to buy the pills where they don't. Yeah. The poorer communities don't have $30 to $40 a pill. They don't have that kind of money in their pocket. I mean, if you give your kid $100 to go out for the weekend, all right, 2 pills, they're down to $20 left in their pocket.
Right.
The poorer communities don't even have the $100 to give their kid to go out for a weekend.
There's something else that they're using too that seems to be sort of a gateway thing. Is that the whippets? Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't know about that.
CO2 cartridges. They inhale. They get a CO2 cartridge. They crack it open and it fills up a balloon, and then they inhale the CO2. CO2.
A long time ago, I heard about that.
Yeah, so they're buying these packages of CO2 cartridges, and sometimes they've got a big unit like this, and they'll crack like 10 or 12 of the cartridges in there, and they inhale that big unit, and that's causing a lot of damage too. That's very addictive as well, and they call it whippets.
Yeah, no, I heard about.
I have people. You know what else I had people getting high on a lot that was very addictive. Snorting paint, spray paint, putting it on a rag and snorting that. And if they really got desperate, they would get some kerosene or some gasoline, put it on a rag, or a home cleaning product like say Windex or something like that. Put it on a rag and sort of.
I've seen them use nail polish remover to get
nail
the
polish.
fuse
One they will use. Glue, of course, glues they were using a lot in the past. I don't know if they still do, but paint and household cleaning products are being used too.
Yeah, they use a lot. Listen, there's things that are being used today that spin your head around because you was like, how the hell do you use that? I don't know how they did it, but something with potpourri one time.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Too. I don't even know what they were doing. All I know is that somebody was using it for that.
I once had a guy I was working with who was snorting paint, the spray paint. And he said, Jim, I'm okay. I'm not using it anymore. And he came in one day and he had all these gold little particles. And I said, I don't think you're telling me the truth there. Because when they're inhaling it, those little particles get on your shirt, like whether you're using gold or red paint, whatever it is. So those are highly addictive things, highly addictive.
Yeah, I mean, they come up with these new ways of doing it. And it blows your mind. I mean, when I heard about the potpourri thing, I couldn't even.
Yeah, I heard of that. Yeah, they were selling that out of the smoke shops too, Tony. Yeah.
I don't even know how they do it. All I know is a lot of people are starting to do it, and I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, but they get people smoke heroin. They have to use the glass pipe. They kind of boil up the heroin in the glass pipe, and they, sort of smoke it. But
Yeah.
it's once again, to get into this, many of these people already have something going on, right? They're bipolar, they have the mood disorder, so they're looking to sort of feel better. And one of their friends tells them it's a good idea to try this because this helped me. I tried snorting a little bit of heroin, take all your problems away, or take your pain or whatever. So they get into it because they try to self-medicate, right? They try to make their own treatment plan, actually, right? And then they get in over their head.
No, you're right. And basically when they want rehab, it's when all the funds are dry. Nobody will give them credit on the street no more for the drugs, and they really don't have another option. So a lot of times they'll say, you know what, maybe I'll try this rehab and see what it can do for me. Because a lot of times you just ain't getting no more. Where, maybe in the house you're going to say, I'll cut the funds off for that. And unless you got a super job as a young kid, you got nowhere to turn to get it no more.
Yeah. And there's nothing good associated with drugs, right? There really is nothing good associated with. There's nothing good associated with being an alcoholic, other than heart disease, cirrhosis of the liver, all that kind. There's nothing good associated with these things. Is it okay to drink wine once in a while? Have a drink socially? Yeah, that's fine. But if you become an addict, there's just nothing good associated with it.
No, zero.
Here's the thing. Here's another point to bring up. So I've worked with a lot of people who are, heroin addicts for, 20, 30 years, and they've stopped. They're sober. Now, Jim, I've been sober for a year and a half. You've been drug testing me, Jim, and I'm telling you the truth, and they are telling the truth. But they still can't give up smoking cigarettes. Jim, I gave up heroin. I was on heroin for 20 years. I can't give up smoking. So that's the one that really sort of blows my mind, that these people who have overcome major addictions cannot give up the smoking. They just can't.
The smoking is hard.
Smoking is hard. It's very hard to get rid of it.
Hard, yeah. I guess all addiction is hard. All addiction takes hard work. Willpower.
Oh yeah. Well, someone once told me also, when a person says to you, Jim, when someone says to you, Jim, I can't stop smoking, that really means I won't stop smoking. I'll give you here's a brief thing. So I'm seeing this woman. She's got a million problems, right, with mental health as well and all kinds of stuff. And she was on probation. So she goes to the mall and she was stealing things, and she had her 8-year-old kid with her, and she was putting the stuff she was stealing inside her little kid's pants and jacket, and she got caught. So because she was on probation, they sent her to the women's prison in Connecticut here. She got 6 months. She had to finish the rest of her probation in prison. When she got out, she came to see me, and she said, Jim, you're not going to believe this. Remember, I was trying to stop smoking all the time with you, and we tried all these different things. We tried hypnosis. We tried this. We tried that. I just couldn't stop smoking. Yeah. I stopped smoking in prison because it's against the rules, and you'll get more time. So I said, well, you told me before that you can't stop smoking. No, you're right. I couldn't. But when you couldn't smoke anymore, you stopped because you had to, right? Yeah. So it really wasn't what she was telling me when she said I can't stop smoking. She really meant I won't stop smoking unless somebody stops me. And they stopped her.
I remember when we were in school, the teacher would tell us can't is a word whose real name is won't.
But it is hard to stop because, once again, I've dealt with hundreds of people over the years, and that they can kick the heroin, they can kick the cocaine, but they can't kick the nicotine.
I don't know who he's talking about, but would drugs cause a man to threaten a woman with a hatchet live on YouTube?
Oh, come on.
The hell is that?
Probably got to be high on something to do it, but I don't know. I don't know the story.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chicky said, could you please drop the link?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to drop the link. Chicky wants us to drop the link. I'm just going to ask people, please don't make a mockery out of this. I'm asking, please, okay? And I don't mean Chicky either. Hold on. And anybody else who wants to talk about their addiction. Rainbow Melon says, I think cigarettes are a drug too. People are dying from that.
Yeah,
saying
cigarettes
it.
are, the drug is legal though. Nicotine is totally legal, right?
Yeah.
Alcohol is totally legal. Caffeine, the two most popular drugs in the United States today are legal, caffeine and nicotine.
Yeah.
Hey
What's
there,
up, Chick?
Chicky.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hi Angel. Hi
How are you,
Tony.
Chicky?
Hi Doctor. Hold on, let me shut you off my speaker. Let me go on the phone. Hold on, let me shut you off my speaker. All right, hold on 1 second. Listen on my Bluetooth.
What's up,
All
brother?
right. All right. So what I wanted to tell you is, Dr. What is it, Dr. Julian?
Dr. Jim. You can call him Dr. Jim.
Dr. Jim, okay. You live in Waterbury. I'm right in Springfield. We talked about this before. I'm right down, not too far from you, maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And I can only tell you, and you can agree, tell me if I'm wrong. I know I worked probably like volunteered for the VA in Northampton, Mass, up in Leeds, and I volunteered at West Haven VA. Okay, like a couple of years ago for like 5-6 years, on and off, 6 months, 2 months, and I would take in, like, I would help the real people like yourself take in people and interview them and everything. And what I found, first of all, I don't know about other places in the country. I'm sure government is the government, but I'll give you a couple little facts about methadone. First of all, this is what we were taught, and we had to tell these people, the people coming in the homeless shelter, the veterans that didn't have a place to live, they have a homeless shelter. Now, it's crazy because if a veteran came in on methadone on a U.S. government property on a veteran, and you can look this up. I mean, I'm not just coming up with this out of clear blue. If they were on methadone and they needed to go to a homeless shelter on the base, on the veteran's property, do you know that the government will not let them live in the homeless shelter if they're on methadone? Wow. They will not let them live in the thing. Now, Suboxone's fine and other things, but methadone, they will not, by law, they can't let you live on the property on methadone. Now, when they used to go to rehab, like the veterans have the best rehab programs, okay? And I would, do an interview, and then I'd give them to a person like yourself, Dr. Jim. And then they would decide, even in rehab, if they go to the people in rehab and say, I want to get off methadone, just methadone. Do you know the rehab cannot let them get off methadone? They give them their dose every day. If they're locked in unit, the methadone the doctor in the locked in unit will give them methadone every day. So they won't even get you off it. Okay. And then there's a lot of these methadone clinics that we used to send them to where once they didn't live on the VA. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
okay,
hear
so
you.
because I can't hear. But yeah, and if I'm wrong, correct me. And so I was talking to a counselor one time, and this is going to sound crazy to you guys, but you can look this up. Mm-hmm. And I said to the counselor, how like this woman that was teaching me, and I was only a volunteer, whatever. And I says, how can you turn away veterans from the VA hospitals for being on methadone if they have no place to live? And you know what she told me? She said, between me and you, now this is what she told me, and you guys can look this up, maybe Dr. Jim, methadone in 1941 was created by Hitler, okay? There was two doctors that worked for Hitler. The first name was Mac something and Gustafa something. And it came to America in 1947 for pain medication. So, Tony, 1,000% it is pain medication. Not that they give it out all the time for pain medication, but it's the same exact effect as opiates. Same exact effect. Okay. So, and then another thing with the methadone programs, we have Mass Health in Springfield. I'm sure Connecticut has, I don't know what the name of these different ones all over the state are, all over the country, but we have Mass Health. Do you know if you're on Mass Health, they pay for the methadone every single day, whatever weekly, monthly, I don't know what it costs. It's pretty good money. And the program pays for a car, a delivery service car, to come get you every single day when you don't got take homes and bring you to the methadone clinic, even in the 3 feet of snow, pick you up, bring you, and then bring you back home. And it's all free. So there's no incentive from what they told me to get off. I mean, it's one thing if you're on for a year and you're on opiates or heroin, you get off it and you move on. Beautiful. I mean, hey, great. But do you know they try to keep you on it because everybody's making money. The methadone clinics, the nurses, the doctors, the people that do the blood work, they're all making money. So they make it almost impossible. If they're doing it for free, why would anybody who, is on that, why would they want to get off it? They don't care about the bones. And like you said, you're 100% right. I guess it weakens the bones and it whatever, whatever it does, I don't know. But it does all of that. But the point I'm trying to make is they make a system where, just like cancer, you don't think they got cures for certain cancers that they're not telling us? Because they're making billions of dollars on medication and hospitalization and doctors and radiation and chemo. It's crazy. I mean, I know guys that are veterans that were friendly with me that live in my city. They've been on methadone for 25 to 30 years. So all you're doing is it's legal heroin. That's what methadone is, legal heroin. It's the same exact thing. There's no different. And Tony, I wanted to tell you, I heard you say, when from what they told me, the guys I know, you feel no pain. When you're on methadone, I guess it lasts, I don't know how long it lasts. No, it lasts till the next morning, I guess, or whatever. You need to go get another dose. Now, if you're good and you, like Dr. Jim was saying, he's 100% right. Well, in Massachusetts, I don't know if it's a different thing in different states, but Massachusetts, if you get popped for cocaine or drinking, anything like that, they don't kick you off methadone in Massachusetts. I don't know if every state's different. They take away your take homes. Like, in other words, if you're good and you're going good and after a month or two and you got no drugs or no alcohol in your system, they start giving you take homes, 3 over the weekend. Then if you get better, they give you a week's worth. Then eventually they give you 14, 2 weeks worth. So people don't want to screw that up. So the people that go every single day and they're there for years and years and years, them are people that are still fooling around with either alcohol or, whatever drug, cocaine or crack. They're never going to get take homes. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like I said, I never took it, but I can only tell you from working with the veterans what they told me. And I mean, for years and years and years and me asking questions, it's just amazing. You know what I mean? I maybe if I was 20 years old, I would have went into that kind of field because it's really interesting to me. And they also said that a lot of it's self-medicating, like when they go on heroin or they go on opiates. There's a lot of people with mental issues like ADHD and all this, and their brain is running crazy all the time. So they turn to drugs, methadone or heroin or whatever they're using to calm their brain down. They self-medicate. And then, as you know, 3 days, like Angel was mentioning, 3 days she was on pills and she took them off. 3 days, you're never going to get hooked. I mean, you would literally have to go, a couple weeks where you take, say you were taking 2 a day, Angel. Then you, after a week, you said, screw this, I'm going to take 4 a day. Then after that, maybe the following 2 weeks later, I'm going to take 5 a day, every a couple of, now you get in trouble. Now because when you don't have them from what, it's very sick. And about the alcohol, that's another thing. The alcohol, the guys who come in with alcoholism, it's the worst withdrawal. You should have seen them. We used to have people sit out in front of their rooms at the rehab and have to stay there with a chart and watch them, not through a camera, literally sit there and watch them to make sure they didn't go into DTs or seizures. And that's why, and everybody should know this, I'm sure they do, all the stores were open during COVID, all the alcoholic drinking stores, liquor, not so much bars, but liquor stores, because they couldn't just shut liquor stores down during COVID. Restaurants, everything was shut down, not liquor stores, because people would go into DTs and seizures. They had during the whole time during COVID, the liquor stores were open, right, everywhere, all over the country. So I like I said, I'm no doctor, but I just wanted to give my little thing, what I experienced.
No, I agree with you. I mean,
did I say something wrong? I mean, did you?
No, you're right. You're 100% right. The system perpetuates itself, right? You need arrest the addict goes to court, the judges get paid, the lawyers get paid, the treatment, and then you come for treatment, the treatment centers get paid, the counselors get paid, the patient gets paid. It perpetuates itself. So it's never going to
happen. And that, like, no one is going to be off alcohol or drugs. It don't matter if they have kids, grandkids, their wife's leaving them, the girlfriend broke up with them. Nothing is going to stop them until they wake up one day and say, I had enough. And you can watch any rehabilitation show or any of these interviews these guys do, the stars. You're not going to stop until you had enough. And some people fall lower than others. Some people have enough when their wife leaves them. Another person has enough when they go to jail. Another person has enough when they're broke and they're homeless. You just never know. And some people just don't care. They just get worse and worse and worse until they pass away. And it's such a sad rotation. You know what I mean?
That's true. And what you're saying is 100% right. And what you'll hear from people who have successfully overcome is what happened. Why did you quit? Jim, I got sick and tired
of being sick and tired.
That's right. So what you're saying.
And like Tony had mentioned, and about rich people and poor people, within addicts, that doesn't matter because a rich person has the money to buy the drugs and a poor person might not have the money to buy the drugs, but they create the money to buy the drugs, whether it's stealing, going into Home Depot, boosting. Unfortunately, women and men prostitute themselves. And it's very sad. It's not being a joke. They get the money to get their habit. So when you say, oh, there's a lot more richer people than poor people, no, that's not right. Because the poor people will do what they have to do. Stick up a lady on the subway, grab her purse, women prostitution. Unfortunately, a lot of women that strippers, they'll do whatever job they got to do to get their money to feed their habit. Rich people might not have to do that because their daddy, mommy got money, a college kid at Harvard. I mean, you wouldn't believe in Boston, we have the top schools in the world. MIT, Harvard, all these schools, Worcester Polytech, unbelievable. That's not even a portion of them. And these rich kids are more hooked than than any poor kid, because they have access to money and, we got to study for a test. So they take some, that medicine that if you have they don't even get diagnosed for ADHD. They're taking that. What is that medicine, doctor, that keeps you up all night studying?
Right. And they take amphetamines, or Ritalin, or whatever.
Right. Whatever. They're doing that. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think there's a spectrum of poor and rich. It's just poor people do what they got to do to get it. And rich people, maybe it comes a little easier,
Yeah.
But like I said, the VA, the only reason I'm coming up on the panel, because I know, you guys, you're a doctor, I'm just giving my experience within the VA system. Like I said, I worked with hundreds of veterans, and they taught me. I didn't know nothing about this. I was never a real big drinker or drugger or nothing like that.
To your friends or your family, they'd be like, "What? You're kidding me, right?"
Yeah,
they don't believe it. Like, this can't be true. It can't be true, right? But it's true.
Right. It's so sad, And like, I would never say the word JUNKIE or any of these words that are bad, because I believe from what I've seen with all these people, it is a disease. It's not like they're doing it, it is a disease. And a lot of people, I think what do they plays a role in it, doctor? Your genes. If your mother was an alcoholic, your grandmother was an alcoholic, there's a part of your gene. I don't know about genes, but I'm just telling you from what people I interviewed, the veterans, their father might have been a degenerate gambler. Maybe the mother wasn't a drug addict, but she was alcoholic or sex addict. I don't know.
You could have a predisposition because if you're
that's what I believe, that 100%. I mean, there's always going to get a few that go through the, like the grinder, like in other words, that had a great life and they just did it just to try it out because they were bored. I get it. But the majority of addiction is, they do it on their own too, but is pre like you just said, that word.
They have a predisposition because you're right.
Yeah, it's in you.
It doesn't mean you could have a predisposition, but it doesn't mean 100% you're going to be an addict, but you
right, exactly. And you still can stop yourself. Like, in other words, you could say, oh, my father was a big drinker. I'm not, because my cousin who owns the auto bodies, his father was a big alcoholic for like 35 years. And they seen what happened between their father and their mother. The father grabbing the mother, throwing her down, all this craziness. So one day the father finally got sober. He had enough, and my aunt, my father's sister, stayed with him. They were from the Bronx, Italian woman, cooked, great woman, married another Italian guy from the Bronx. They came to our area to open auto bodies, and they had two sons, first cousins. And they don't have a drink, a drug, or a cigarette to this day. because of what they saw, what the father did to the mother when he was alcoholic.
It could work two ways, right? Dad was a big drinker. I like to drink too.
Right.
I saw what Dad did, and I don't want to make those same mistakes.
100%. So, like I said, I don't, you guys are having a great show. And this is the stuff you got to do. I know people get, I'm not even going to get into it, but I know people get emotional about things. But Angie, you're doing a great job. Tony, you're doing a great job. Doctor, thank you for coming on. And I'm going to drop down because I'm interested in listening. But I just want to give my little thing of what I learned from the veterans. You know what I mean? And people I know that go to the methadone clinic to this day.
Very good. Great call.
But thank you for having me. I'm going to drop down. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Chicky, be good, Chicky.
All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
See, there's people that feel strongly. The last caller, very good. That guy's really well informed, and he's talking from firsthand experience, right? So he knows what's going on out there, but the general public is unaware of it. It's and the whole thing behind the methadone program, he's right, is we've got to stop the people from going out there and doing home invasions and B&Es and boosting and costing the taxpayers, millions of dollars. So what can we do? Let's give them the heroin. Let's give them the methadone, the synthetic heroin, so they won't have to go out and look for $400 or $500 every day, and crime will go down. So that's the theory. So
you agree with that? You agree with that? Give it to them for free?
Well, nothing is free. Somebody's paying. Do I agree with it? I think the methadone program does have its place and it works, but I am disappointed that people are involved in it for their entire life.
Agree.
Wow.
But I don't have a better solution, because there would be a lot more crime. I could say that there would be more people getting hit over the heads and more people getting broken into and carjacked and all that kind of stuff. Because when a person is addicted and they're not feeling well and they know they're going to be sick, they'll do anything to get the money. They'll rob you. They'll whatever they need to do, that they're going to do it. Like he said, you go into these strip clubs and so on. Well, if you've ever been in a strip club, and I have maybe 3 times in my life, it's not my thing, but you'll notice that most of the girls who are dancing are using drugs.
Yes.
You could just look at them and tell. Yeah. So, they're spending whatever tips they get and so on and so forth. They're spending it on their habit.
Well, they're getting it from the people in the strip club. A lot of the friggin' customers going there with it, trying to
that's true. Yes, that's true.
Wow. So Barbara Buffalo said that her daughter was given methadone for pain. It's a pain med.
Okay.
Out longer than more years. 10 milligrams given for pain.
10 milligrams is a low dose. Okay. So that could work for pain. I'm guessing that could work for pain. In the setting I was in, I didn't have anybody using it for that. It was mostly drug addicts, people using drugs, right? Hey, I learned something new today. They're giving it, somebody's prescribing that for pain. Okay.
I didn't know about that.
No, I didn't either. But once again, long-term, there are some significant risks for that, especially long-term is the bones get brittle. There's some other things I forgot. I can't recall it right now, but there are some other things that, once again, for every action, there's a reaction, right? So, but I was just surprised and disappointed when I found out that how many years you've been on the program? Oh, 25. Like, what? So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Jim, I'm going to hold on one second. We're going to say goodbye right now because I have a feeling when this person comes up, I'm going to have to edit it out. So
we got you. Okay. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure coming on tonight.
Very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and thank you, Tony, and thank you, Angel, and thank you to your beautiful viewers and listeners. I appreciate their comments, and thank you all. And please, everyone, have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr.